There have never been more young people ditching their 9-to-5s or expensive degrees to work in the trades, and it might be the smartest financial decision you can make. Every day, I meet plumbers, technicians, roofers, and more who are more fulfilled and, quite frankly, usually richer than a lot of the people that I met when I was working on Wall Street. So let's talk about the explosive rise of the trades, why it might be the most lucrative opportunity for you, and skills I would build to be a millionaire in the trades economy. We need to start by understanding why the trades are such a good fit for so many people. In one study, only about 44% of young American workers ages 18 to 29 say they're extremely satisfied with their job. That's lower than every other age group in America. One of the beauties about the trades is that you can enter a trade and it can fulfill any ambition level that you want. If you just want to have a good, solid job with a lot of flexibility, then the trades can be great for you. It can be a great way for you to have quality of life. But at the same time, if you want to actually use those skills to ultimately build a $10 million business, $100 million business, or multi-billion-dollar business, you can do that in the trades too. And there are so many examples of people that have done each of those. There's also the fact that education in the trades compounds faster than any other industry. So let's think about two different paths. One path is what I would call the more traditional path. You graduate high school at 18 and you decide to go to college. You come out with, on average, call it $60,000 of debt. Then you get a job and maybe you start making $50,000 a year. The next thing you know, you wake up and you're 40 years old, still have that student debt. Obviously, I am generalizing it a lot, and there are lots of people that have followed this path and been successful. Let's compare this to a person who at 18 decided, hey, I'm not going to go the traditional path. I'm not going to take this debt. I'm going to go out and start working for a local plumbing business, and I'm going to start as an apprentice. They're going to pay me a small salary that's going to help me to pay my bills, maybe while I'm still living with my parents if I'm lucky. And I start learning a trade, and then I resonate with this person that runs this small plumbing business, and they say, hey, I'll pay for you to go to trade school on nights and weekends if you continue to work for me, and we maybe guarantee me 2 years of work. Fast forward another few years, you know how to do plumbing, you've learned how a plumbing business works, so you decide, you know what, I've been learning all of this, maybe I've saved a little bit of money, I don't have any debt, I'm going to start my own business, my own plumbing business. You get your first clients that you go out and call and service yourself. You go out and hire another college kid and say, hey, I will train you to be a plumber and I will send you off to trade school if you work for me. And you start doing that and repeating that over and over again. Then maybe you get so good at that you decide, okay, I've maxed out the number of plumbers that I can have in my small town. I'm going to go repeat this in another town because I have a system that I've built here that I really believe works. And you do that year after year, decade after decade, and you wake up and you're my age, you're 42 years old, you've been working on it for 22 years because you started when you were 18. You now have 10 locations doing tens of millions of dollars of revenue with the enterprise value likely in the tens of millions of dollars. You compare that to the person who went to college, took a job that maybe paid their bills but couldn't pay down all of their student debt, and they're still 42 years old and in a very different situation. Obviously, there are people that can take both of these paths and have good outcomes and have bad outcomes, but this is just to highlight that there is this alternative path that people should consider. I know I keep using the same examples like HVAC for plumbing, but there's a limited number of trades. Ultimately, you have to go out and figure out the type of trade that speaks to you. There are trades jobs that are almost impossible to get rid of and constantly growing. When I think about trades, one of my favorite examples is actually a relative of mine. We'll call him Greg. He designs electrical systems for data centers. Fast forward to today, and he has a very high-paying, very sought-after job designing electrical systems for data centers. We all take for granted all of these data centers that are being built, but what doesn't get talked about enough is the fact that we actually have to build this infrastructure. There are lots of estimates suggesting that we're not going to have enough supply of energy over the coming decades. It's going to be a trade that is only going to be in more and more demand as there's more demand on our electrical grid and our electrical infrastructure. I think that if I were a young person and I was looking to go out, looking for a trade job, then I would be potentially looking at becoming an electrical technician of some kind. So just a few examples of jobs that fit into this infrastructure category would be electrical engineers, welders and fabricators, pipeline workers. Ultimately, you got to figure out what it is that makes sense for you, what you gravitate to, and then go in, get your hands dirty, and get to work. If you're anxious about being replaced, I have 4 more jobs that are almost impossible to replace or outsource. Because I'm on a mission to build the world's leading indoor air quality company, I see opportunities everywhere in the indoor air quality and HVAC space. One observation that I have made is how climate change is changing what people decide to install in their homes. For decades, most people would not have central HVAC systems or central cooling systems. Cooling systems were something that people just did not install because they didn't think they needed them. There's been a lot more demand for people installing HVAC systems than ever before because the summers are a lot hotter than they used to be. There's been a rising demand for HVAC technicians in the Pacific Northwest specifically, but in lots of places where the summers have been getting hotter. And these are opportunities that are unlikely to be outsourced to AI or a robot anytime soon because it's something that people physically are actually going to have to do, at least for the foreseeable future. These are skill sets that you're going to need to have somebody physically come in and actually do that work. A few jobs that fit into the hard to replace category, in my opinion, would be HVAC technicians, plumbers, elevator installer and repair techs, or welder, all physical, skilled, in-person work. So here are 3 simple frameworks to make 6 figures in the next year as a roofer, plumber, or technician. One thing that I've noticed when looking at different trade jobs is that specialties oftentimes get paid more. The deeper you're willing to go, the better off you're going to be. A good elevator repair technician makes a median salary of $90,000, which is a very high paying salary for just a technician job, right? Compare that to something more generic like a plumber or HVAC technician that makes a median of about $60,000 a year. Ultimately, if you're looking to make real money, you want to be combining generic trades knowledge with other skills that you build over time. The less skilled something is, the less pricing power you ultimately have. It's just economics 101. Broad is cheap, while niche is valuable. The riches are in the niches. Once you have a niche skill, this next step will help you take your income to light speed. I know a guy that went to work for a construction company in his early 20s, and he became specialized in running their concrete trucks. They were mixing concrete, going out and pouring concrete, and he ultimately saw that there was a lot more demand for concrete pouring for various construction work. So he saved money over a 5-year or so period and went out and bought his own concrete truck. He was doing the work himself in the beginning, and he was able to go out and build a business doing it. 5 years later, he had 7 trucks that he was running, and he had 7 employees that were actually doing the work for him on a day-to-day basis. And he was able to build a very successful business doing it, making a couple $1 million a year revenue and taking home 6 figures. He still, from time to time, will go out and fill in if he has the ability, but he doesn't have the responsibility of having to go out and do that day to day. I think of him all the time. He has a great family. He doesn't want to have a 100 truck business, but he has a very high quality of life, makes a good living, and is able to not have to do a lot of the heavy lifting himself. When you think about Josh, what allowed him to actually build a business? He was able to build a reputation and trust over time that gave him more and more opportunities. He was able to build systems that allowed him to scale to having 7 different people working for him. He figured out how to schedule them. He figured out how to do his finances. He figured out how to price appropriately. He had systems built around each of these things that allowed him to build the business that he has today, that allow him to continue to operate without a lot of the stress that comes from being solely a one-person team. If you want a path to comfortably retiring and even building generational wealth, you need to hear this next step. Just recently, I met an entrepreneur who built a $60 million a year HVAC business in 7 years from scratch, starting out as an HVAC technician. Then he refused a $100 million offer from a private equity firm because he knows he has the ability to scale it even more. In that 7 years, he would tell you he took no days off, took no time off, was working 100-hour weeks, was doing a lot of jobs himself. Still to this day, will go out on the road at least 6 days a week. The reason why that's been so important to him is that is what has allowed him to build the systems that ultimately scale. The only way you build those systems that scale is oftentimes going in and understanding the system yourself. Scaling is still going to be the same whether you're scaling to a $2 million a year business or to a $2 billion business. If you're a one one person or just a couple person business, there are leverage points, or there are things that you could do or skill sets that you could bring in that, if you had them, would unlock a lot of opportunity for you in the future. Let's say when operating a business yourself and you're starting to get to where you have more business than you can handle on your own. Another leverage point would be starting to use contractors to help you to scale your business, to start taking more business than you as one person can handle before bringing in an additional employee. Maybe you're not getting enough business for you to bring on another employee, so you have a marketing problem. You need to go out and start building the frameworks around marketing and getting more customers. Maybe it's hiring an outside marketing agency that specializes in your niche. I think this is where most people actually get it wrong. They need to be thinking, okay, what are the problems that if I solve today would make everything else easy? What are the blockers that if I only unblock them, it would allow me to get to the next level? Constantly figuring out what it is that's blocking you from taking the next step, unblock that, and then rinse and repeat, and that's how you scale a business. If you want even more examples of boring businesses and valuable skills, watch my video on boring businesses that create billionaires.